Welcome to the Izhitwaawin podcast. I am Alexander Aman. To my right, I have
Jeffrey Brown.
and
Shane Branchaud.
Shane Branchaud. Who are you?
I'm me.
He is me.
Yeah, about it. No, I am the motor pool supervisor for Red Lake Chemical Health Programs.
All right. And where are we right now?
The studio,
We're at.
Redby, Minnesota.
All right. We're here in Redby, Minnesota. We're at the studio. And so, how far are we from the motor pool?
A couple hundred yards.
All right. So, if you ever come down to see Shane at the motor pool, go ahead and stop in at the Izhitwaawin Studios. Also, where were we doing the maple sugar bush cooking at?
Right here at the motor pool. We are on Green Lake, right on Green Lake.
All right. So, we're on the lake called Green Lake. We're in Red Lake, but we're in Redby. And so it gets confusing, but that's where we are. And if somebody came down to the sugar bush, they'd probably swing through this area here because this is where we're doing the cook. And this is where we did all the cooking. And Shane, what is the sugar bush?
Well, it's the camp where we go and collect sap and we make syrup.
All right.
The whole process is tap the tree, collect the sap, boil the sap, filter it, bottle it, and we got syrup.
What's the importance of doing something like this? What's the importance of the sugar bush to the community?
Well, it's just a cultural thing. A lot of people love to do it. I mean, we use it in different ways to help with recovery and help show people that there's other things out there to do than just sit around or even do drugs and drink alcohol.
Is there an aspect of being out there in the trees that kind of might help keep somebody away from those things?
Well, it takes time, a lot of time and effort into it. So it helps keep people's mind off of it too.
Do you think that the sugar bush can be used as a drug remediation tool?
Yeah. Like I said, it's all the cultural aspect of it. We try to incorporate that as much as we can.
And so, how far back do you think the sugar bush has been going in the culture?
A long time. A long time. I have no clue.
Like, why do you think the people were doing it way back when, and why are we doing it now?
Well, I think it just had a lot to do with needs. It was very simplistic back then. So that's how they got their sugar and sweeteners and stuff like that and medicine,
Do you think that the trees have medicine in them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So, like, why is it important for us to stay connected to the trees and in this part of culture?
Just what our people did, It's what we had. It's what we used. It's just a lot of medicine in it. It's just always helped our people.
Jeff, what's it like when you're out there in the sugar bush? What do you like about it?
I was out there for a very short time, but I always remember when I was young in elementary school, they took us to a sugar bush, and you know how it is when I think I was in 5th or 6th grade. I really didn't have no interest in it. Didn't even know what they were doing or what it was. Now that I'm an adult, I got to experience collecting the sap, and I came over here and they were boiling the sap, and that's a lot of work, some hard work, and it's very rewarding when you're out in the woods, because I parked at the top of the hill and I walked back there. That was a long walk, and I just walked in the woods because the ground was it was so wet, and so I was just sinking in everywhere. So I just walked in the woods. You know how it is, use a bathroom in the woods and just keep on walking back there. And it's very quiet out there. Next week, we're going to be talking about fasting. And that reminded me of that. When you're out in the woods like that, it's very calm and it's very peaceful. And I got back to the sugar bush, it's like a half a mile. And I start helping them collect the sap. And the one guy said that I never have seen it. I never seen sap like this ever. And he's been doing the sap for a very long time. And I said under my breath that the trees knew I was coming. And you know, that's just a ways to make myself laugh, ways to make others laugh. But yeah, the trees knew I was coming, so they gave out good special sap for me to see the process of it and boiling the sap. It's very rewarding, is what I'm saying. But
And we didn't tap the tree that he used the bathroom on. So
no.
How do you know?
shh, don't tell him.
So Shane, can you give us a little briefing on the kind of crazy science experiment of a contraption that you have going for the sugar bush? What do you call it? And you know, kind of how does it work?
Well, this year we try to make it a little simpler and try to keep out the elements. So I built us a sugar shack, which is where we boil the sap. So it's just basically a shed with a cupola on it, which is where the steam exits the building, so it doesn't fill up with steam and get a lot of condensation buildup. And what we use to boil the sap, it's called it's an evaporator. Pretty basic, you know. It is what it sounds like. It evaporates the water from the sap, and that's the main purpose of boiling the sap, is to get the water out of it and raise the sugar content. So,
And when you say sugar, are we talking about like that, like white like what kind of sugar are we talking about?
maple sugar.
Maple sugar?
Yep.
What's like?
It's closer to brown sugar than it is the processed white granulated sugar.
And so, is there anything added to this maple syrup to make this sugar?
Nope, it's all natural,
So it just comes straight from the trees,
straight from the tree.
heat it up, cook it down. That's
Filter
it?
Filter it, and bottle it.
How many bottles do you think you got this year?
Oh, I don't know how many bottles, but I'm pretty sure we got close to 29 gallons of syrup. Syrup? How do y'all say it?
Syrup. I don't know.
Syrup.
Syrup. So what's kind of like the first step when you're starting the sugar bush for the year? Like, what is the first thing you kind of do to get ready?
Well, the first thing we did was go out and check where we're going to do the sugar bush this year. Accessibility is a big part. The last 2 years we did it, it was pretty hard to get back there, even with four-wheelers. So our biggest thing was to look and find a more easily accessible spot, which is still not easily accessible, as Jeff explained. But we do have the equipment to get back there. So that was the first step. And then second is just wait for the weather to cooperate and then tap the trees.
Is there an important window of time for the weather that you watch for?
Well, you look for above freezing during the day and below freezing at night. That's the ideal situation.
And so, what, like, what's kind of happening when those temperatures are changing in those ways?
The sap runs up and down the tree from the pressures, from the temperature rise and drop. It's just it'll pull the sap up and it'll drop the sap down, and that's how we collect it. Is either we're collecting on the up run or the down run of the sap, and that's how it fills up the bags or buckets or whatever you guys use.
And Jeff, when you were out there, what did you see? Like, what kind of collection systems did it look like we had set up out there this year?
It was a plastic bag.
Yep.
It was hung up by the I don't know what it's called.
Shane, what's it called?
They're just bag holders. They're special bags and bag holders that we use. They're a lot of people are switching to them. They're UV protected, so they're protected from the sun. Also, they're thicker. They're a 5-gallon bag, and they have a special bag holder just for them to hang on a tree and keep any bugs and stuff out. It helps minimize that and any snow or rain that falls in to keep it more sap than water.
Mm-hmm. So Jeff, when you're out there, like, how are the side by sides outfitted to be able to move the sap?
Side by sides.
For the 4-wheelers?
I really didn't pay attention to any of that.
Well, Shane, like, how do you get the 4-wheelers kind of ready to help out there?
I don't know. I just work here. No, we bought tanks. We have some 35-gallon tanks and some 75-gallon tanks, and we have a 6-wheeler and 2 side-by-side Rangers that we use. We just put the tanks in the back and drive out, collect, fill them up, come back, and boil it down.
Is it pretty helpful to have like a tool like the 4-wheeler side by side?
Very helpful. Otherwise, you're carrying it all the way out of the woods.
Yeah, it's a long walk.
Yeah. A majority of the camps out there are right off the highway, which makes it easier. They don't have to travel so far. But we just like to be out in the woods. So travel a little bit farther in there. And plus, like I said, we have the equipment and tools. So it's always nice.
Why do you think Red Lake Chemical Health, works with this type of cultural activity? Like, why is it important?
Well, it really started out as 3 of us wanting to attempt it on our own just to try it, and it turned into this big sugar bush thing that we do every year now. It's a pretty big scale. Nowhere near professional, but it's a big scale sugar bush. But it's always just cultural. We're always trying to find ways to incorporate culture into recovery.
So, all right, so we collected the sap, put it in the side by side, put it in the jug, brought it all the way back to Motor Pool and Izhitwaawin studio, Green Lake area here. And what's next? What do we do after we get it back?
We boil it for hours and hours and hours and days until we're done.
So, like, roughly how many gallons of sap did we start off with?
Well, I can't remember exactly what our first collection was, but I think it was well over 100 gallons. And our evaporator can handle evaporating 12 gallons an hour. So every hour we're boiling off 12 gallons water. So it helps to have the proper equipment to boil. Otherwise, the old school way, the old fashioned way, boiling it in big kettles or pots and stuff, very very inefficient. But I mean, it got the job done. But nobody is out there doing 300, 400 taps. They were doing smaller camps, so it worked for them. But we're on a lot bigger scale, so we invested in the proper equipment for it.
And so once the stove's going, what are you doing to kind of keep up with it? Like, what are the things you got to do to keep it cooking?
Well, I made it really simple this year. I added a float box to our evaporator, so we had an extra two extra tanks actually, but we used one of them to feed the evaporator, so we didn't have to pour sap in. It automatically fed it, and all we had to do is keep the fire going. It's a wood fired evaporator, so just gotta cut some wood and feed the fire.
So is there kind of like so when we've collected it, when we're doing the cook, is there kind of like a community atmosphere that kind of gets built around the cook? Like, can you describe some of the?
A little bit. We have fun. Try to, during that, towards the end of the boil, they pulled out some games and stuff. They were playing games, and they just playing around, joking, laughing, visiting, having people come down, meeting new people, taught quite a few people about the whole process of how we do it. Other people do it different ways, But yeah, we just try to keep it fun.
Do you think was there anybody that experienced the sugar bush for the first time this year that you got to kind of like see or teach or?
Well, we had, I don't know, 10, 12 clients that were new. Jeff was fairly new to it, I'm sure he knew about it. He just never did it, and that's how some of these other clients too, they heard about it, but they didn't know the process of it. So it was, we taught them how we do it.
So Jeff, like, what did you pick up this year? Like, what'd you learn, or like, what'd you feel while you're doing it?
I made me more want to help out more. Maybe more like next year, like help clean the bottles, clean the evaporator, help the guy go cut the wood, go tap the tree. There's a lot that you can get involved with, and next year I want to be more involved in. Like I said, I was never like interested in this kind of thing growing up, but now that I'm an adult, and now that I see the whole process of it, makes me want to get involved and help more than be more involved.
So Jeff, like, with your role in the Red Lake Chemical Health Program, and and working with clients, do you see that is there, like, how do you make the connection for like the sugar bush being a remediation tool? Like, do you see it as a remediation tool, like in the toolbox, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I help with the youth, and I brought the youth to the studio. I said, let's go to the sugar bush, and they're like, yeah, let's go. Because then we came out here, and then I told them about the studio, and they wanted to come in here. So we came, checked out the studio, and we went to where Shane was boiling sap. And Shane was helpful, and he explained what was going on, and they seen the side by sides and the 4-wheelers, and now they want to get in the woods and cruise them things around. So, see, stuff like that is try to get the kids busy, let them know that there's other things to do than alcohols and drugs around here in our culture. has a lot of answers if you follow it, if you stay connected to it. It'll help you with life.
I can tell you firsthand that when some of the youth that I saw, as soon as they realized that they could put their finger on the four-wheeler's gas pedal, uh, they were enjoying their time out here a lot. And I think it's really important for uh, literally everybody, anybody and everybody, all ages, all races, religions, to get the heck outside when they can. Because, sometimes, especially the youth, they're spending probably too much time on devices, even adults, even myself, spending too much time on my devices. And I can tell you for a fact that the less time I spend on my device, the more time I spend outside, the better I feel. And it's crazy. It's just a chemical thing in our brain that is just reminding us of where we're truly from. And where we're from is the woods, and where we're from is outside. And reconnecting with that is definitely a mental health exercise, physical exercise. And I think that it has really strong capabilities to help people stay out of and move away from addictions. So Shane, where do you think this, like, if you had to guess, and this is a long shot here, but like, how do you think the first person came across the sugar bush? Like, what do you think they were doing, and like, how did they find it?
I think is a lot less weird than the first person to try milk. But really, I have no clue. I couldn't guess. Couldn't even guess.
So I know
I'm guessing maybe they just seen something leaking out of the tree and they tasted it. I don't know.
and for a person who had never ever tasted like industrialized sugars at that point in time, I could see it. I could totally see it. Like maybe they had cut a branch off a tree, or a storm took a branch off a tree, whatever, and it's springtime now, and that wound hadn't healed, so it's kind of just leaking, right?
Yeah.
And if you're thirsty and you're walking through the woods and all of a sudden you see something leaking, you might just taste it. I don't know. I'm totally making this up and guessing. I have no idea.
I don't think I would.
But Shane, so how did the first person try milk?
Don't know. Don't want to know.
Yeah, that would have been awkward, I think, to witness.
Someone that was hungry.
Yeah.
Someone that hadn't needed something to drink.
Yeah.
Well, you hope it was a last resort.
Now we drink milk almost every day. Now it's a part of our balanced diet these days.
Jeff, what are we drinking here? What's this?
That is thorns. That's medicinal tea.
Where did you harvest this from?
And way out by the Narrows, they call it the Ridge. And
What's it like when you're out there?
it's very peaceful out there, you sometimes when you're out there, I usually go by myself, and when I'm out there, sometimes I think about a cat, a big cat, or a bear, or a wolf, and then I just remember of all my surroundings, and the fear gets away. Sometimes you hear something way over there, and that fear comes back. But sometimes I just gotta get in my truck, and there's something nearby. I better get out of here. I don't know when I hear something that I never heard. Like last time I was getting thorns, and I heard something. I don't know what it was, and I just said, "Oh, it's time to go." Got in my truck, and I was gone.
So, why did you bring this for us today? Why did you make it for Shane and I and yourself?
Because it's good for you. It's medicinal. It works for a lot of things. you have a cold, if you have a sore throat, it'll help with that.
And so the studio is called Izhitwaawin, meaning the culture. And this is the tea of the culture. And thank you for joining us for today's podcast on the Sugar Bush of Red Lake, hosted by Shane Branchaud and Miigwech.
May good.
Peace.